In my lectures about databases, Introduction to Databases, I began giving a problem that had to do with checking whether a certain answer was valid, and I suggested that it might be up to you to write a function to check that. And this video is intended to help get a head start on that if you were working on that. And don't worry if you didn't watch that video. What we're going to do is similar to last time. We're going to think about how would we write a function to check if somebody gave a valid answer. And I'm actually just going to I'm going to go ahead and take this line out of here. So no worries about this code. That's not what we're working on. We're working on this. We're working on writing some new functions. So this is the code we wrote in the very previous lecture. It was looking at a function called isEven, which was called down here. Consistent with my policy of writing functions at the top of the code. In fact, I even write them in alphabetical order. So A comes before I, so we're going to put this here. We're going to try to figure out if a certain answer is valid. And we're going to do something similar. We're going to return either a true or a false. So let's go ahead and start by writing a docstring. Remember, that's just a special type of comment. So input a user submitted answer. I guess maybe I should even say a user typed answer. And then the output is going to be a Boolean. Returns true if the user typed a valid answer. Okay. I'm just pressing enter a bunch so that you can see this. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. It doesn't really matter if that wraps over the line. You can't see it, sorry. All right. So first, I think we should go ahead and inside this function, I'm going to put valid answers. And this is a little different than the example I showed you in the other code. And that's fine. I want it to be a little more straightforward, and I also want it to be a little bit of a challenge. If you do want to go back and solve that challenge problem, I want you to still have something to work on. Okay, so these are going to be the valid answers. If I want to be really good, I'll write a comment. I'll say list of valid answer choices. Okay, remember square brackets in Python. See this thing has square brackets? Those mean we're making a list. Okay, so believe it or not, there's a very fast way we can check this. We could say if answer in valid answers return true. Otherwise, return false. And I'm being very explicit. Yes, there are faster ways to write this function, but we're not trying to be fast. We're trying to become wise and capable. So we need to be diligent in what we're doing. So this is just going to check if answer is contained inside the list called valid answers. This thing in, you'll notice it has the same syntax highlighting as if. It's the same color as all these other words that are reserved words. Return, else, in. These are special reserved words in Python. Okay, so it's just going to check if this is in valid answers. We could do some fancy footwork in a second here, but now I'm going to want to test my function, and these things I seem to be done with. I don't really feel like calling the isEven function anymore, but I would love to call this function and see if it's working properly. So let's get rid of the extra lines in our program, and let's go ahead and call it down here. So how shall I call this? Let's have a memory jog. To call a function, we need to use the function's name, and we need to put parentheses, and then we need to type a value or a set of values. If it takes something in as input, we have to give those inputs. So I don't know, let's suppose that the user typed the letter B. That supposedly should return true because I see the letter B here in the list valid answers. Okay? So up to you, you can either store this in a variable now or you can just print it. I'm just going to print it. Okay. And then I want to go back here. Oh yeah, I had a special note. I was gonna tell you something. Okay. Good. I wanted to say this is the Python console, which you can open from idle. What is idle? IDLE, Python idle. It's free comes bundled with Python. So this is just the Python console, also called the Python shell. So it turns out there's a special thing you can do. You can use another reserved word called type, and you can use it to check the type of a variable or of a thing. You can. So let's just say I'm just going to make a variable called x, and I'm going to have it be a word. So, sorry, it's a string. It's hello. And now I want to know the type of x. This is pretty cool. You should do this. You should write it down. Oh, interesting. Don't worry that it has these little angle brackets on it and says the word class. Don't worry. The real thing I wanted to show you was you can do type x. And by the way, I just accidentally typed it capitalized. Remember, Python is case sensitive, so you need to be consistent. Type x is str. This is kind of strange. If you come from another programming language, you will say, wow, this is a very informal way of saying this. Yes, we're on a first name basis with Python. We can say things informally. So type x is str. Str is short for string. This when we write this statement, it should return true if it's a string. Haha, it does. And it should return false if it's not. So let's go ahead and make one that's false. And just as a recap, we're inside the shell right now. So now I'm going to put the number 42, an integer. This is hopefully not a str, unless someone has done something really bad and overridden str. Haha, great. So this is just, I just want to make sure you had this in your arsenal because we could use this in our function to make our function a little more advanced if we wanted. So for example, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to have a rampage. So what if I said if type of answer, and notice that got made into a different color because it's a reserved word. If type answer is str, so far so good. I'm actually going to do a nested thing. If, and then I'm going to do this. Don't try this at home. These are the only cases I'm going to, in which I'm going to, wow, cool, look, I just put more things. Yeah, I could have put and, maybe I could have put and here, but that would have made it break across the line. So I'm just wanting to make the point that when we have an if statement, and it's followed by colon, so the way if statements work, I'll do another video about this separately, but an if statement, it takes a condition, so I'm highlighting the condition now. This line 12 is basically an if statement with a condition, and then the colon, after a colon, Python expects to see code that's indented. So here we've indented one more way, one more amount, 4 more spaces. This whole block, everything right here, these 2 lines, line 13 and 14, these are considered to be part of, these are a block that belong to this first if statement. They don't run, they don't get processed unless this condition is true. And if that condition is not true, we're going to return false. And maybe I could even, I don't know, this code is a little longer than it needs to be, but I'm just trying to make things very explicit. So I'm saying if it's not a str, don't even bother checking. Don't even bother checking if it's invalid answers. So this is a little bit, there's a little bit of extra credit. I don't know that it's necessary. I just wanted to have an excuse to tell you about this cool type function. All right. An exercise for you would be to figure out how to make this robust to capitalization, so changes. So if they type in lowercase a, I'd like it to still give an answer of true. If your program, if you as the programmer think that lowercase a is just as valid as uppercase a. So that would be your way to extend this. A recap of what we did just now. We wrote a function called answer is valid, which takes in some variable called answer. First it checks if that's a string, and if it is a string, it goes ahead and checks if it's inside the list valid answers, and if it is in that list, it returns true, and otherwise, it returns false. And by the way, if it wasn't even a string in the first place, it also returns false. And we can call it down here, and a good way to test your program would be to change the stuff inside these. I don't know why I like the number 8 today, 8 zillion. You can go ahead and check this program. Okay, good job. Don't forget to subscribe.